Now next is Beadle and Tatum, that is one gene one enzyme hypothesis. Okay, now the direct proof of this gene metabolism relationship came from the work of the George Beadle and Edward Tatum in the early 1940 on the fungus Neurospora crassa. Okay, earlier Garrett experiment led to the idea that many disorder may be inherited as any other gene, that genes function by controlling the metabolism. Okay, so Beadle and Tatum worked with a simple organism, that is a common bread mold, Neurospora crassa, and they showed a clear connection between genes and metabolic enzyme. Okay, and thus they formulated one gene and one enzyme hypothesis. Okay, so they proposed this famous one gene and one enzyme hypothesis. Okay, and they were awarded Nobel Prize for their work in 1958. Okay, now this is the cycle from the ornithine to arginine. Okay, and this is the normal step, that is from ornithine to citrulline, and then the formation of the amino acid, that is the arginine. Now we will see the experiment. One gene one enzyme hypothesis. Okay, so it states that a gene control a structural or functional trait through controlling the synthesis of a specific protein or enzyme formed by later. Okay, so Beadle and Tatum, they irradiated the spores with X-rays and isolated a variety of nutritional mutants which had requirement for an additional nutrient, and such mutants were called auxotropes in comparison to the wild type, that is prototrope, which could grow on a simple nutrient medium, that is a minimal medium containing only few salts and sugar. Okay, now what he did, this experiment involved first exposing the mold to the mutation, okay, and then culturing it in a minimal growth medium, okay, that contain only the basic nutrients, okay, that the wild type strain of the mold needed to survive. Okay, so the mold, that is the wild type, can grow normally in a simple minimal medium containing salts and sugar and preparing all other material such as amino acids, purine, pyrimidines. Okay, so such a normal or wild type individual is called a prototrope. Okay, now they exposed the mold to the X-rays which were known to cause heritable gene mutation, okay, by changing the base sequence of DNA. Then they found that the mutant were unable to grow in the minimal medium unless additional nutrients were added to the medium, and such nutritional mutants are known as auxotropes. Okay, so one was prototrope and the other was auxotrope. Okay, so auxotrope or nutritional mutant is that mutant which is not able to prepare its own metabolites from the raw materials obtained from the outside. Okay, so therefore it cannot live in the natural environment but can be maintained in culture by providing the required metabolites. Okay, and the wild type is called the prototrope. Here you can see growth of the wild type, that is the prototrope. Means a prototrope or wild type is the normal individual which can synthesize all complex metabolites required for its growth from raw materials obtained from outside, and it can also grow in the lab on minimal medium consisting of that sugar, salts and ammonium. Okay, so next he found three types of auxotropes requiring amino acid, that is ornithine, citrulline and arginine. Okay, and the prototropes were found to have amino acid arginine in their body. Okay, so a number of arginine requiring mutants were isolated. Okay, so it can be classified into three types. Okay, means some could grow on ornithine or citrulline or arginine containing medium. Then some could grow on citrulline or arginine containing medium, or some could grow only on arginine supplemented medium. Okay, so there were three types of auxotropes requiring amino acid. Okay, so from this figure you see that type 1, here you can see type 1 mutant have defective gene A and lack enzyme A. Hence, it needs ornithine or citrulline or arginine for growth. Then, type 2 mutant have defective gene B, okay, and lack enzyme B. Hence, need citrulline or arginine for growth. Okay, here you can see. Then, type 3 mutant, okay, have defective gene C, therefore they lack gene C, hence needed arginine for growth. Okay, and wild type grows in minimal medium and does not need any additional materials for growth. Okay, so from this I hope it is clear that the mutant which needed ornithine for growth lacked an ornithine producing enzyme due to mutation in the gene that coded for this enzyme. Similarly, a mutation in another gene caused lack of the enzyme which catalyzed the change of the ornithine to the citrulline. Okay, and this mutant would need citrulline for growth. So they thought that each gene had the information for producing a single enzyme. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, after this, Beadle and Tatum reasoned that defective enzymes are due to defective or mutant gene. Okay, so hence genes expresses their effect by controlling the synthesis of enzyme. Okay, so it means that all mutant could grow on arginine supplemented medium. Here you can see, okay, arginine supplemented medium, suggesting that arginine is the final product of this pathway. Okay, we have seen the pathway and it is the final product of this pathway. Since some could not grow on ornithine, so this compound must be synthesized earlier than citrulline and or arginine. Okay, so Beadle and Tatum, taking clue from this growth behavior of Neurospora and other experiments, proposed the arginine biosynthetic pathway. Okay, that is the steps which are required for the synthesis of amino acid arginine. Okay, that is from ornithine to citrulline and then to arginine. Okay, now the precursor compound first give rise to ornithine, then give rise to citrulline, and then the latter is converted to the arginine, and each of this step is mediated by an enzyme. Okay, so the mutant of class 1, here you can see, could grow on ornithine, citrulline or arginine, suggesting that they lack the capacity to synthesize ornithine, but if they can get the supplemented one, they could complete the pathway. Similarly, mutant of class 2 could not convert ornithine, okay, to citrulline, but if supplied citrulline, it could synthesize arginine. And the last class of the mutant 3, okay, could not convert citrulline to arginine and had to be supplied the later for the growth. Okay, so they reasoned that these defects could arise due to defective enzyme on each case. And since such changes were mutational, they optioned that one gene controls one enzyme in a pathway leading to their famous one gene, one enzyme hypothesis. Okay. Understood? It is very important that Beadle and Tatum reasoned that mutation caused a defect in enzyme and one mutation produced only one defective enzyme. Okay, and therefore they proposed the famous one gene, one enzyme hypothesis. Okay, so this hypothesis states that each gene controls the synthesis of a specific enzyme or a particular protein. Okay, so this means their work laid the foundation of the biochemical genetics. Now, this has some defects also. We will see how. Now, all genes do not produce enzyme. So, some of them produce proteins. While most of the enzymes are proteins, but all proteins are not enzyme. Okay, that means all genes do not produce enzyme or their component. Some of them control other genes, and enzymes are generally proteinaceous in nature, but all proteins are not enzyme. Okay, then some enzymes are formed of RNAs. Okay, that means some RNAs also exhibit enzymatic activity. Okay, and a protein or an enzyme may be formed of two or more polypeptides. Okay, each transcribed by a separate genes. Means a protein or an enzyme molecule may consist of one or more. Now, one gene, one polypeptide hypothesis. Now, two ideas soon modified the one gene, one enzyme hypothesis. Firstly, while nearly all enzymes are protein and all proteins are not enzyme. So also many proteins are made up of subunits called polypeptides with each distinct polypeptide under the control of a gene. So Yanofsky found that the enzyme tryptophan synthetase of bacterium E. coli consists of two separate polypeptides A and B. And polypeptide A is of alpha type while polypeptide B is of beta type. And the synthesis of the two polypeptide is controlled by different gene, that is TRPA and TRPB. So a change in any of these two causes inactivation of tryptophan synthetase through non-synthesis of alpha or beta polypeptide. So inactivation of enzyme stops the synthesis of tryptophan. Okay, so these cases show that more than one gene may control the synthesis of a protein. So a similar situation is found in case of the formation of a hemoglobin molecule. Okay, the adult hemoglobin, for example, consists of 4 polypeptide, that is 2 alpha and 2 beta, and the synthesis of two types of polypeptide is controlled by two different genes situated on different chromosomes. Therefore, one gene, one hypothesis was changed to one gene, one polypeptide hypothesis. Okay. So, this led to the re-evaluation of Beadle and Tatum's hypothesis into one gene and one polypeptide. Okay. Therefore, one gene, one enzyme hypothesis has been replaced by one gene, one polypeptide chain principle, and the hypothesis states that a structural gene specifies the synthesis of a single polypeptide. Okay, so that's all for today's class. Next we will deal with transcription and we will see the transcription unit. Meanwhile, read NCERT and do all the assignment. That's all for today. Thank you.